Hey, what's up, guys? MMA Film Room here. I know this is a little bit of a different style of video, but I figured since we're getting somewhat consistent and putting out more content, we might as well branch out. Now, before I start, just want to preface, I you might be able to guess where my allegiances lie, so to speak. And I was scrolling on Twitter the other day. I saw the allegations Dan Hooker put out, and then I saw videos from this guy. Now, if you follow my channel, you're probably a somewhat hardcore MMA fan. And if you're a somewhat hardcore MMA fan, you probably are aware of this guy right here. Now, um, I think we all know what he thinks about Dagestani fighters. Seems like it might also branch out to Muslim fighters in general. Um, oh, well, you know what? We'll take a page out of this guy's book and say, let's be unbiased. We don't know what he truly thinks, but appearances do not look good for him here. So I feel as though at this point it's gone past the point of pettiness and into somewhat delusion. I mean, this guy misses facts and bends them for somebody who's supposed to be a hardcore MMA fan who's trying to get down to the truth of things. So we'll start from this point right here.
Because this needs to be looked into. Surely it's not just them being salty losers. I've seen a lot of people saying that. Oh, they're just being salty losers. We haven't had an accusation of someone.
Okay. Now, we don't know if they're being salty losers, right? But Dan Hooker's team, City Kickboxing, on that fight card had Tyson Pedro fighting, Shane Young fighting, and Alexander Volkanovski fighting. Now, I might be wrong, but I believe all three of those guys lost. And really only one of them came away looking good, and that was Alexander Volkanovski. Not to mention, Dan Hooker himself lost to Islam Makhachev. So for his little ego and pride in his team, this might have been the camel that broke, or the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back. So maybe that's why Dan Hooker decided to speak out of turn here and accuse Islam of using IVs with basically no evidence.
Using an IV to rehydrate themselves in a very long time. Oh, it's illegal. We used an IV.
Now you can watch this video and come back and tell me if I missed some context here, but I watched this video through once, and I think I'm going to be fair in terms of where I start and stop and cut through the video, because I don't want to sit here for longer than 20 minutes.
We know that he used a nurse. You need to show us that you know he used a nurse, because I'll tell you this, Islam Makhachev's manager is Ali Abdulaziz. And if he can find a way to get a couple million out of a lawsuit for defamation, Ali Abdulaziz is the type of guy to do that. You know what I mean?
Okay, first point right here. I don't know where he gets this idea from, because Ali Abdulaziz, I don't think he has any active, pending, or former lawsuits against fighters for defamation or even attacks. Now, he did his fair share of physical assault on Colby Covington at the Vegas casino after Usman won his title initially off of Tyron Woodley. But on top of that, though, I mean, look.
I have glass. I'm afraid to move. I like glass.
This is Ali Abdulaziz when Conor McGregor attacked the bus. Who else was on that bus? Habib. The guy who was the target, the specific target for the attack, right? Now, if Ali Abdulaziz was the type of guy that the MMA Guru says he is, you're telling me he wouldn't sue Conor for literally assaulting him with a gang of 40 coked up goons? I mean, Michael Chiesa did. I think Ray Borg did. You're telling me that a man of Ali Abdulaziz's stature, connections, because he's connected to politicians, and money, with access to good lawyers, wouldn't try and jump on that chance to score money against somebody who just came away with like a $100 million payday in Floyd Mayweather? I don't think so. Not to mention, the entire time, one of his star fighters, right, Kamaru Usman, was being called the CEO of EPO, was being accused of taking steroids by Colby Covington. Now, I personally think that Kamaru Usman probably is on something. But let's talk facts here. USADA has not. I mean, look at how many times this guy's been tested through the years, right? And USADA has not indicated that he pissed hot at any point. So if Ali Abdulaziz was this type of guy, he would have taken this to court, and Colby would have gotten mopped in litigation because there's years and years and years and innumerous amounts of tests done on Kamaru Usman to prove the exact opposite, and he would have won that defamation case for whatever amount of money the judge would have deemed appropriate. So those like three instances right there make me think that, and I mean, this guy is well aware of the history, you know? I mean, he's a big Colby Covington fan. He's a big McGregor fan. He understands who these people are. He knows the history of what happened, who attacked who said what, and he's covered it as well. So this makes me feel like this is not a genuine argument here that he's making. He's just kind of twisting events and personalities and facts to fit his narrative.
I mean, so I think Dan Hooker needs to really wrong. Bet you can't. I have a problem with this as well, though.
Okay, I gotta give him props here. What he says here is completely true, and I agree with him. And this is man. If I hadn't known this guy, I would give him the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, maybe he's trying to lay out like an unbiased thing here, right? And he goes on throughout the entirety of this thing to say, now I'm not saying anything, but this doesn't look good for Islam and stuff along those lines. And even at the end, I believe, we'll go at the end of the video here. I believe he says that he thinks that Islam did it. Now I could be wrong. If I am, I'll come back and I'll say I was. But what he says here is completely correct. Just to be unbiased and present what he was saying.
Though, from Dan Hooker. Prove yourself right. This is not some Me Too movement type stuff going on in the UFC. You know what I mean? You don't just accuse someone and say, prove me wrong, and then leave it there. Prove yourself right.
He is right there. Dan Hooker, as of recording this right now, at 8 o'clock Eastern on Valentine's Day, Dan Hooker hasn't really produced a nurse or any other evidence. There's no statement put out by USADA that says that they have any actionable evidence to go and explore this, but it is what it is.
This is. Dan Hooker's lost so many fights. I'm not even taking shots at Dan Hooker here. He's lost so many fights. You don't hear IV cheat being thrown around. You know, CKB members have lost fights. They've never accused someone of using an IV. Of course, there was a whole thing with Paulo Costa and then Adesanya grew a boob, which was a thing, but that was directly from Israel Adesanya. You know what I mean? And Paulo Costa did get caught using...
Now, let's just talk about this for a second. Why would Dan Hooker or any other city kickboxing fighter not bring up anything up until now against any of their previous opponents, right? Even Paulo Costa. Because those teams that live in glass houses should not throw stones. That entire team right now is marred by the fact that Israel Adesanya, in his 30s, decided to grow an A-cup titty, right? And, you know, once again, allegedly, maybe he might be on something, but USADA proved that he wasn't. But like this guy said right here, it doesn't look good for that team in Israel Adesanya. And, you know, it's not like him growing an A-cup in his 30s could be explained by anything else, unlike Islam's being, could be explained, that bruising could be explained by the Australian Commission taking a blood sample from him.
An IV before and did face a suspension for it. But to think that people are just putting this down to, oh, what a salty loser. This is...
They do come off as salty losers.
He has a crease, but it's no different from the crease that's here. It's not an obvious mark on his arm. It's just...
So this is important, right? This is the weigh-ins. And the weigh-ins happen on Friday for us Americans.
Just a little bit of shading, a little bit of a crevice, just a little line that you would have, just like this is a little line that he has, just like this is a little line that he has. You know what I mean? These little lines that appear on your body when they're shading and the light's beaming down on top of you. We can see that by the shadow in the bottom right corner. He does... That is a mark right on the spot that you would get an IV put into. Simple as that.
Now, he's going to say something very stupid here.
The picture, and this guy is defending Makhachev, and I want to tell you why it's sort of weird that he does so. The picture on the left is going viral after Dan Hooker claims Islam used an IV. The picture on the left was taken before the weigh-in. The picture on the right clearly shows no IV mark bruising was taken during the fight. Come on, folks. So this picture was taken before the weigh-in, and that mark shows up. But this is him at the weigh-in, and there isn't that massive red mark in that area. So this guy's waffling, is all we know about that. Because we don't know when that picture was taken, but all we know is that he has a mark on him right there. And I'm going to prove to you that this mark...
Watch this. 2,000 IQ right here.
...appeared after the weigh-in. So this guy defending him, first of all, this guy in his bio has certified good guy.
First of all, this guy right here has the MMA Guru on here. Maybe he has some IQ deficiencies that he wants to hide.
Anyone who has that cannot be trusted, is all I'm going to say. You got skeletons in your closet.
Same could be said here. Now, he's trying to argue that this photo was taken after the weigh-ins. Now, think about this, right? There was a story made, or a narrative made, about how between the weigh-ins and fight day, they only had like 24 hours, right? Now you got to think. This leaves about 8 hours, maybe 10, 11 of... No, not even, because they have to sleep. So for those 8 hours, 10 hours are probably going to be undisturbed for sleeping purposes. And then another 2, 3, 4 hours or whatever is going to be like when the event starts. So they're not going to be doing media then. Do you really think that the UFC is daft enough, right, to have the fighters recently coming off of weight cuts, some who may be cutting an extreme amount of weight like Islam, they would force them to take pictures after they cut weight and not before? And the 4 or 5 days that they are there, you don't think they'll have them do it at that point when they're not compromised, trying to rehydrate, getting ready, meditating, training, going over last minute preparations, what have you, before fight night? That is a brain dead take. Brain dead, right?
I'm going to say. But either way, this guy claims that it wasn't there in the fight. And to be fair, it's not shown in the fight as much. That's just a shading of the arm. That's just the muscles in the arm, the ligaments in the elbow joint, the veins popping out. It's just how it is when you do a bit of a workout. You know how veiny you can get, a little bit vascular around the forearm area especially. But this is a clear mark of an injection. That's my opinion. And he says that this was taken before the weigh-in. But that mark ain't there when Makhachev makes weight. Here's more important information. We scroll down. It's just a vein and a shadow. People are so weird. Clearly not a shadow. But I'll prove that it's not. Literally laughed out loud at the first post I saw regarding this, using this image as evidence. I literally laughed at it. Why are people so quick not answer for false allegations with no evidence? True, but now take those. I think there's a level of definitely just a. Can see it here also. This is a picture at the UFC 284.
Now, okay, this right here, right? That just looks like a regular vein. There's no discoloration there other than just a silhouette. Now, I know he's going to talk about shadows or whatever, but there's also a downcasting light. Maybe that's where that shadow could come from. But if you look up, I don't know here. Islam Makhachev PNG, right? This was taken before the belt, because if he had the belt at this point, I believe they would have just had him on him, right? Or even here. Look at that vein. Jan versus Sandhagen, October 30th. That was that weird pay-per-view that wasn't a pay-per-view with Glover and Jan Blachowicz headlining. Look, it's present here as well. No discoloration. Looks to be about the same color, same size, everything. So it's just a vein that he has. Right? Nothing wrong with that. There is no brown, dark blue, dark green, dark yellowish discoloration that you would see consistent with a bruise. So that right there is...
Or ceremonial weigh-in. And this is serious.
Once again, looks pretty much the exact same.
Some mark on Makhachev. Volkanovski's got from the original time this picture is taken.
If you think, I encourage you, well, I don't really want you guys, well, he's going to give views regardless, but go watch this video and just rewatch the parts that I'm skipping through to formulate your own opinion and whatever, because I know his fans are going to be on here saying I skipped through whatever.
And a mark as well. People are going to hear that red mark, that little dark mark on his skin, wasn't there during the fight. By the way, this isn't a shadow because the light is beaming.
No, that's not a shadow. That's a bruise.
Directly on Makhachev again. Like, I don't directly on Makhachev. And people are going to say, well, it didn't show up during the fight. And I'm going to say Covington literally admitted to using makeup backstage to sneak a cut through the commission when he was fighting Robbie Lawler.
So he did that during the commission check-ins before the fight, before fight day, I believe. What kind of makeup is going to last you through 25-minute grueling war, right? The pace that they were fighting at was insane. The amount of rubbing that he had Volkanovski in that seatbelt position for extended periods of time. You don't think that shit would have rubbed off, at least onto Volkanovski or off of him and revealed anything? Really? Not just that, but there was also blood and a lot of makeups. A lot of these makeups, I believe, like they might not be water soluble, but they're fat soluble, which like oil comes out of your skin, especially when you're sweating.
If you don't remember that, remember it. Covington had makeup on to cover up a cut above his eye during the Lawler fight because he got cut and he didn't think he was going to make it through commission, so he used a makeup lady backstage to cover up his cut so he could get to the fight. And he had makeup on. I'm not saying that Makhachev used makeup, but surely there's a little something, just a little brush of something that would make that
makeup
mark a little bit less obvious. I'm not coming to any bulletproof conclusion here. I'm not saying Dan Hooker cheated. I'm not saying Islam Makhachev cheated. I'm not claiming that at all. I'm just looking at all of the evidence presented. And I'm keeping an open mind about it because this is very serious.
Now, he said that this, remember what he said? He said that this happened, this bruise was there before or after the weigh-ins, right? Now, I want you to look at this. February 10th, 2023. This is before the weigh-ins, right? This is actually, so embedded, what they do sometimes is they release the previous day's footage from the previous day, right? Excuse me. They release like, if something was filmed on the 9th, they'll release it on the 10th, right? Look right here. Right here.
UFC on.
You see that? It's bruising. Before he cuts weight, before he weighs in, there's some bruising. Now this looks like, let's see. I had it here somewhere. Look, the open workouts, February 9th. What's there I see right there? Surely that's not the same bruise? Before the weigh-ins? Why would he rehydrate before the weigh-ins? It's right there, broad as daylight. Now, if the MMA Guru was on okay, let's say that this was Colby Covington coming under attack, right? MMA Guru would have done his due diligence and not ignored, or would have went back and, left no rock unturned to try and prove his innocence. Bruise is right there, February 9th. The fight took place February 11th. Weigh-ins took place February 10th. Also, we're going to go to the pre-fight press conference, if I could find it. Or pre-fight interview, I guess, would be. Okay, look at this interview, right? Yeah, you can't, I sifted through this. You can't quite see the nook of his elbow here, but look at the shirt that he's wearing. Look at the backdrop. Well, okay, took place in a different area, but look at the shirt that he's wearing and look at when it was posted. February 9th, right? This took place on February 9th. Same t-shirt. So just to add some more context for the timetable here. This bruise was present well before weigh-ins. So that makes me think that was not from the IV, supposed IV for rehydration purposes, but it was for mandatory blood test by the Australian Commission, just as Rizvan Magomedov says. The Guru's looking kind of stupid right now, if you ask me.
My arm just the same when I had my elbow absolutely destroyed and I had injections there.
He talks about, I don't know, whatever bullshit he's talking about.
As well, just to really put it, send it home. Prove me wrong, bet you can't. Prove yourself right.
Okay, good point.
That's how I'll end this video. Like and subscribe. Thank you to get your evidence up, because I'll tell you this much, and I'll end it on this as well, just to really put it on his body, right where you would put an IV, right into that bicep, create evidence. There's a weird mark on his arm. Does it make everyone allude to the fact that maybe Makhachev did cheat? Why is there a mark? That is not a shadow. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to say that's not a shadow. That is a mark on his arm, right where you would put an IV. Nowhere else on his body.
So he was asserting his opinion, right?
Right where you would put an IV, right into that bicep crease. I've got a mark on my arm just the same when I had my elbow absolutely destroyed, and I had injections there as well. It's that big juicy vein right in that crevice, and it's there. I don't have a mark that looks like a red sore mark. I have a scar.
And then he talks about his personal experience. So in this entire course of trying to smokescreen as if he's unbiased, which we know what his stance is on Dagestani fighters, maybe even Muslim fighters. We'll not go there, we'll be unbiased, but it's not looking good, like what this guy says, or it's smelling fishy, whatever the hell he says. He does mental gymnastics to make people think that the UFC's retarded enough to, I shouldn't say that. The UFC is dumb enough to take pictures of fighters after they weigh in the 3-4 hour period where they're able to, before they go to sleep and then wake up the next day and fight, right? That Islam Makhachev wore some type of makeup or cover-up that lasted him through a 25-minute war where there was blood present, there was grappling present, especially with this part of his elbow or forearm and bicep rubbing up on Volkanovski's shoulders, neck, hands, whatever, and it didn't come off. I mean, we know what this guy's stance is on people from certain parts of the world. Try as hard as he might. I mean, we don't have to dig too deep, There's go look at there's a few channels that kind of satellite channels that are parasites that feed off of him. Go look at they make clips of what he says about these people. Go for yourself and look if you don't trust me. This guy does not like them. He has a bias against them, and he wants to see their downfall. So I'll leave it off right here. All you little MMA Guru fans, little fanboys, go on down in the comments if you see this. If this video even gets relevant enough, I'm not saying it will, but in case it does and you're sitting here watching, go ahead. Leave your hateful comments. Tell me I'm stupid. Write some bullshit about your, youngest Jewish rabbi in a wheelchair down in my comments. Dislike the video. Increase the interactions, please. The algorithm has not been kind to some of my videos. Go ahead. I'll capitalize on the Dagestani fans. I'll capitalize on the other MMA fans that don't like MMA Guru. Increase my audience for me. Thank you.